Hey everyone, welcome to HeroBlend number 161. My name is Managing Director Sean O'Connell here at CinemaBlend. My name's not Managing Director, it's Sean O'Connell, and I am the Managing Director here. And I've hijacked the show from your normal host, Eric Eisenberg, because last year I was lucky enough to go to the set of Avengers Infinity War down in Atlanta. And over the past 2 weeks on the site, if you guys have been paying attention, we've been dropping a number of stories from the set where we're getting into not necessarily spoilers, but trying to fill in some gaps of some really important things that Marvel fans might want to know about Avengers Infinity War. I want to use this time for this special episode of HeroBlend to talk about any questions that you guys might have from the most recent trailer that we watched to the first trailer, or any of the rumors that have sort of been swirling around about where Avengers Infinity War is going, how it might set up Avengers 4. So if you have questions about Infinity War, whether it's from the set or any of the footage, put them in the comments down below. I will try to address them over the course of this episode of HeroBlend. But I want to talk a bit about some of the things that we learned, specifically about how Avengers 3 and Avengers 4, which comes out next summer, fit together. Now, yesterday on CinemaBlend, we were able to start running stories that we learned from the screenwriters, Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely. And these two guys worked on the two previous Captain America films that Joe and Anthony Russo also directed, Winter Soldier and Civil War, and then they're writing the scripts for Avengers 3 and 4. So they are as immersed in the MCU as possible. And when we talked to them on the set in Atlanta last year, they were still sort of shooting the two movies back to back and figuring out what material was going to go into what film. And so when we asked them how Avengers 4 is going to separate itself from 3, they really talked about the fact that they're not shooting back to back like part 1, part 2, which was the plan initially. They are two existing films, two separate films that coexist, and it makes me wonder if Infinity War is going to end on a cliffhanger, or if it's really going to have some resolution to the Thanos arc, and then in Avengers Part 4 it's going to pick up with a whole nother set. What feeds into that is the fact that we learned that Chris Evans says that Avengers 4 is going to be his last turn as Captain America, which I think is somewhat stunning, because that's the end of an era, but that's what they've been calling this entire experiment. They say that with Avengers 4, it is going to be a culmination to everything that has happened in the MCU over the course of what will then be 22 films. So I asked Joe and Anthony Russo what that means. What does the word culmination mean to you guys? They said, if the MCU through the first 3 phases is viewed as a book, then this is the last chapter in that book. And the book is closed and it's over. And they said more books may be written, but this is going to be the end of that book, which to me has a lot of finality to it. Cord Snell asked a question in the comments down below. He says, do you think that Bruce Banner is in the Hulkbuster suit that we see in Wakanda? And Cord, yes. I actually do think that that's Banner in the Hulkbuster suit. I think that Thanos is going to encounter Thor and Hulk. In the end credit sequence of Thor Ragnarok, we saw the Sanctuary 2, which was that giant ship sort of hovering over the ship that Thor was piloting that has all the surviving Asgardians in it. I think that he's going to destroy that ship. We see Loki sort of turning the Tesseract over to Thanos and his Black Order. If I'm going to get into spoilers here, and if you don't want to hear any spoilers of my theories, not things that I've learned, but just my speculation, I think that when Thanos takes the Tesseract from Loki, he's going to die. Loki's going to die. I think he's going to kill him off, and that's going to give Thor some real motivation to want to fight the Mad Titan for the rest of Infinity War. And I think after that battle happens between Thanos, Thor, and Hulk, Bruce Banner is going to get sent back down to Earth and land in the Sanctum Sanctorum, which is where we saw in the trailer, you see Banner who's just humanized. And I kind of think something's going to happen to him, whether it's psychologically or maybe even physically, that he cannot turn into the Hulk anymore. So if he follows, oh, but you know what? No, wait. But in that scene of all the Avengers sort of running through Wakanda with Black Panther and his army, we do see him as Hulk. But I bet you for a chunk of Infinity War, he's going to be stuck as Banner, and that's why he's going to have to use the Hulkbuster to fight in Wakanda. So I think that's a really good pickup. I like that one a lot. Michael Bay, the director of Transformers and 2 Bad Boys films, asks us in the comments down below, which Avenger do you think they will kill off in Infinity War? Love this topic. This is an amazing topic. These are informed guesses. I do not know anything for sure. I cannot confirm any of this, but I think some Avengers are going to die. And for this reason, when we talked to Joe and Anthony Russo on the set of Infinity War, they said that they like telling dramatic stories that have real stakes. And if the movie doesn't have stakes, then people just aren't going to be as invested in it. So what's the point? And so they didn't necessarily say that people are going to die, but they implied that it's going to happen. Vision, probably a goner. Vision has an Infinity Stone in his forehead. It birthed the program of Jarvis into a synthetic form, and it became an android Vision, and it's powered by an Infinity Stone, and Thanos wants that stone. So I think that Vision's going to die. I think that you're going to have one of the two pillars of the MCU, which would be Captain America and Iron Man. One of those two has to die. And I kind of think that Iron Man's going to go. I think that the armor can be passed down, whether it be War Machine or there's been a lot of theories about Shuri from Black Panther maybe taking on the mantle of Iron Man in Marvel's Phase 4, if they even call it Phase 4. And plus, I just think Downey is done. I think he's done with the experiment of the MCU. He helped launch it. He's absolutely the godfather of the MCU, but I just think that they're going to come up with a heroic way to send Iron Man off. I don't think Cap dies. I have my own theory on Cap. I'm going to share it with you here. Again, this can't be confirmed. This is pure speculation, but I think that they used the Time Stone in some way to send Steve Rogers back to the 40s so that he can have that date with Peggy that he was supposed to have when First Avenger sort of disrupted him and he got frozen on ice. And I think that would be perfect closure, not just for Steve and not just for the audience, but for the entire first three phases of the MCU. So I hope that happens to him. Thor Thor potentially could die. I don't see any of the Guardians dying, although Nebula may. And I think everyone else has future potential in the fact that we know Spider-Man's getting another movie. Doctor Strange will probably have to get another movie. Black Panther is definitely not dying because they're going to make a second Black Panther. So just from a business standpoint, I think those are the reasons why some of those characters will stay. Anthony Glenn wants to know who will become the new captain, Bucky or Anthony Mackie. If I had to guess, I think it's Sebastian Stan. And it's really funny. That's something that has been talked about for a long time because, and again, when we sort of look at the business side of this, Sebastian Stan signed a 7-film or 8-film contract when he appeared in maybe he was in First Avenger and then they signed him with the contract. And so he's been in Winter Soldier and Civil War, and then they put him on ice. So he has a number of films left. And it would make sense that if they were able to figure a way to bring some closure to Steve's story, that Bucky, now deprogrammed through the science in Wakanda, was able to sort of take on the mantle of Captain America, to pick up the shield, which Steve actually dropped at the end of Civil War. And when we meet him in Avengers Infinity War, they don't necessarily call him Nomad, but he's kind of the Nomad character, and that he's been off the grid, fighting alongside Black Widow and Falcon and sort of righting some wrongs, but not necessarily doing it for the benefit of the U.S. government. Steve's rogue. He's in that tattered Captain America costume, but he doesn't have the white sparkly star. He's not using the shield. He's got the beard. Just incredible. He grew that perfectly. And so I think Bucky's going to sort of take over, and I could see Mackie, as long as he stays around, staying on as Falcon, and maybe cameoing in things like Ant-Man movies going further. Hawkeye. James Sparks wants to know Hawkeye. Where is he in all of this? It's a great question. Hawkeye, from what we understand, is retired. That after the events of Civil War, he's been a little bit rattled by the division of the team, and he was jailed, if you remember, at the end of Civil War, but then broke out. And I think that Hawkeye and Ant-Man are going to go their own separate ways. And Ant-Man will learn about his fate in the Ant-Man and the Wasp story, which actually I think in the chronological order takes place between Civil War and Infinity War. It's sort of a period story, but I think it's going to be sandwiched in that time frame. Hawkeye, meanwhile, goes back to the farm where he's got Linda Cardellini waiting for him, so I can't blame him from that perspective. But I'm sure that he does show up to some of the action. Now, we did not see him on the set, and he's been conspicuously absent from all the marketing that's been going on, which led fans to create that incredible all Hawkeye poster, which I loved, and just sort of figure out where he's at. So I think that he'll show up at some significant time. But even in Civil War, like he was kind of off the grid, and then he showed up when Wanda tried to break Vision out, if I'm remembering correctly, how he showed up. And then, of course, he was part of the airport battle. So he'll be there. I have no doubt that he'll be there. I think he'll probably have a triumphant intro. And it just doesn't feel like Hawkeye's one of those characters that he's going to kill off. I've heard rumors, and again, these are just rumors, that Hawkeye could actually lead a West Coast Avengers similar to the way that he does in the comic books if they decide to maybe take the franchise in a whole nother direction in Phase 4. So we will see. Will Thanos be the villain in Avengers 4? Mohammed wants to know that. No. I mean, I don't know. That is a great question. Because we don't view, or I'm choosing not to view Part 2 to Infinity War, I don't think the Thanos story is going to be carried over into Avengers 4. I think it's going to be its own type of film. Now, that means Thanos he's not the type of villain that feels like he would get resolved in just one film. And it really does feel like, okay, so to keep this extra geeky and in-depth on the Marvel side, in all of the shots that we've seen of Thanos, he still only has 2 Infinity Stones. He has the blue and the purple. And that would mean he'd have to acquire multiple stones to complete the gauntlet before the end of this movie. And I could see Infinity War ending in a situation where Thanos does complete the gauntlet and does the snap of the finger, which is integral to a story from the comic books, and change the landscape of the universe, which could mean for Avengers 4, we open up in a MCU that is wildly unfamiliar to us at this point and has been changed by the work of Thanos. Doesn't necessarily mean that Thanos has to be there, but it could just mean that we're dealing with a landscape that we're just not familiar with at all. But all of this stuff was not necessarily hinted at to us on the set. As an example, when we went to the set, we knew that Captain Marvel had been cast. We knew that Brie Larson was going to be playing Captain Marvel. And then Captain Marvel's movie takes place in that time frame between Infinity War and Avengers 4. But then we learned months later that Captain Marvel is going to be set in the 1990s. So it's a bit of a prequel to her story. But does that mean where has she been this whole time from the 1990s until the birth of Iron Man, which took place in 2008. And so, of course, we meet Nick Fury in Iron Man, and he tells Tony Stark that he's part of a much bigger picture than he even realizes. And, of course, something had to happen to Nick Fury that would make him think that he needs to launch the Avengers Initiative in the first place. And so he must have seen some crazy stuff with Carol Danvers, and I think all that's going to get explained. So, no, I think we might have different villains in Avengers 4. I think there might be Yakuza. As long as it's not the Hand from the Netflix shows, God, no, we don't need to see them explored at all. But it's possible that Brolin shot enough Thanos mocap that they use him for some stuff in 4. But I bet you that his story is Infinity War, and then 4 goes in a different direction. So Nathan Robinson wants to know, when do you think the last stone will show up? So this is the Soul Stone. It's the final Infinity Stone that we haven't seen on screen yet. I honestly believed that we were going to see it in Black Panther. And part of me, even though it wasn't shown specifically, still believes that Wakanda or some element of the Soul Stone, because of the way that T'Challa is able to communicate with the souls of past Black Panthers. I mean, that's a technique that was introduced in that film for the first time, and everybody just sort of accepted it as, oh, this is how the Wakandans, you eat from the herb-shaped heart-shaped herb, and you lay down in sand, and you wake up, and you're communicating with the dead. I mean, it feels like you should have to have some power borrowed from the Soul Stone in order to pull that off. And since Thanos is going to Wakanda, I think he's going there to achieve the last stone. Now, that does bring up the problem of that too many of the stones are earthbound. But, Vision has one of them. Doctor Strange has one of the stones in the Eye of Agamotto. So that's 2 on Earth right there. If you put the third one in Wakanda, that means that Earth has 3. We know that the Collector has the Ether, and we know that the Nova Corps has the Power Stone. And then Loki has the Tesseract. So that's where they all are. There could be 3 on Earth and 3 scattered. And it makes sense that that's why Thanos would have to go to Wakanda. So I don't know for sure if the last stone is going to show up, but I bet it's in Wakanda, and I bet that Thanos gets it by the end of the movie. That's pretty much that's a lot of the stuff that we learned. We also addressed the fact that, let's see, how important Wakanda is to the significance of the MCU. I almost believe that the more stories set in and around Wakanda are going to be powering the Phase 4. We know that Spider-Man's going to be really, really, really important to the MCU because he's going to get the first movie that comes after Avengers 4. And then we know that the Guardian's going to be a huge factor too. So there's plenty of topics that we'll be able to talk about on future episodes of HeroBlend with your normal host, Eric Eisenberg. But for now, I just wanted to run through all the things that I learned on the Infinity War set visit, address some of your topics, and I hope we were able to do all of that here today. Again, my name is Sean O'Connell. This has been HeroBlend number 161, and Eric Eisenberg will see you back here in this chair or a different one with more things behind him next week.